Let's talk about a book that was published in 1981. I know, a very long time ago. The book has sold over 2 million copies, and the title is Positioning: The Battle for Your Mind. This book was written by A.I. Rees and Jack Trout and really just delves into how to position your brand in a saturated environment. Let's delve into it. So, we live in a world that has endless options and seriously fierce competition. So there's always a question that one asks themselves, and I'm sure a lot of people also ask themselves, how does one really ensure that their brand stands out and resonates with the customer that we are trying to attract and retain? And the answers really lie in the principles of strategic positioning, as outlined in this book by Rees and Trout. So the book was published in 1981, as stated in the introduction, and it has sold over 2 million copies. And to some, it's a must read, and I would believe that it really is a must read because we are still in a position where we want to position our brand so we are the chosen service provider. So this book is for marketers, it's for brand strategists, it's for product managers alike. And the core premise is effective positioning, which really means that one has to carve out a unique space in the customer's mind rather than just talking about a product that they've developed and the features that that product has. The book is believed to have influenced branding for decades. I mean, we're talking about it now in 2024, and it's still relevant. So, in this episode, we are going to dive deep into the key concept of positioning. And then we're also going to explore how the ideas have evolved over decades and also unpack contemporary examples of brands that have mastered the art of strategic positioning. So, for those that are building a brand from scratch, or those that want to refine or reposition themselves, it's important to understand the power of positioning because it's essential for cutting through the noise and resonating with the audience. So let's get started. How we're going to frame this discussion is really around three pertinent points. So we're going to talk about the core idea of positioning, and then we'll talk about the lessons that are acquired from this. And then we'll give practical examples like case studies of brands that have utilized this strategy. So we'll now focus on the core idea of positioning. At the heart of this lies the notion that true differentiation is not about what you do to a product, but what you do to the mind of the customer. So the authors argue that in today's crowded marketplace, brands can no longer rely on simply promoting features and benefits. They must find a distinct niche to occupy in the customer psyche. And this really just highlights the importance of customer psychology and understanding what customers really want. So one is able to position themselves in the right manner. The authors stress that this often requires really difficult choices and trade offs. So they then say that brands cannot be all things to all people. And I'm going to pause on this because it is one of the things that we spoke about in our first season, where we had a guest who highlighted the importance of us really carving our way as a brand and really standing by it, because we need to understand that we really can't be all things to everybody. And we must be willing to sacrifice certain attributes in order to own a clear and memorable position. So, an example that one can think of from a clear positioning perspective and also sacrificing other elements is the automotive brand Volvo. They've positioned themselves as a safety brand. So they're not even looking at speed or features or anything of that sort. Their core offering to the market is that they are a safe brand and their cars are safe. And we all know that when you purchase a brand like Volvo, you are really purchasing safety. And particularly for those that have families or young children, I mean, the main thought that comes to mind when you want to purchase a car after you have become a mom or a dad is to go for Volvo because that's how they've really positioned themselves. Another interesting one to consider is Avis in the country. Avis is well aware that they are second with regards to car rentals. And they are working on that, which is why they then have an iconic tagline that says, "We try harder." And it strikes a chord with customers because they are then saying, "We know that we are not the best, but we try harder." So we then believe that these people are really, really trying harder. This is a brand that continues to try harder because they know their market positions. So while we were doing research on this book, we also just wanted to find out, have there been any other rewrites or augmentations of the book or adoptions of the book? And we just identified that they weren't direct rewrites. However, the authors published another book titled The 22 Immutable Laws of Branding, which further discusses the nuances of maintaining a brand's positioning over time. And then there was another book that we also identified, which was Blue Ocean Strategy by W. Chan Kim and Renee Moburn, which explores the idea of creating uncontested market spaces. This is a concept that aligns closely with the book that we're talking about and really emphasizes on differentiation. So we also looked at academic literature, and we found that there's been quite a lot of academic pieces around positioning, the differentiation of it, the strategies, the evolution of the concept within the marketing discourse. And there is one that stood out, which was published in Emerald Insights, that highlights the enduring relevance of positioning, even in our modern society, particularly within the digitally driven landscape. So we encourage you to also just read that, just so you can add on to what the book that we're reviewing has stated. So we're now going to move on to practical examples of positioning that we've seen within the market. So the obvious one to really start with is the Apple brand, which has positioned itself as the premium innovative tech brand that celebrates creativity and individuality. And this has really carved out a distinct identity that resonates powerfully with the target audience. Another one is Dove, which is coined as the real beauty brand. And that's its positioning strategy. So it really positions itself as the champion of real beauty by challenging conventional beauty standards. And I think everybody is aware right now of the standard of beauty, but Dove has stood by its brand promise of focusing and positioning itself as the real beauty product. The last brand that we'll look at is Casa Lager. And before I even start on Casa Lager's positioning, I mean, when one mentions Casa Lager, to me, I immediately remember the campaign that they had with the uh, Toto song in the background. There, I guess it rains down in Africa. I mean, Castle Lager is the longest and most recognized beer brand. And for me to even remember that ad, which happened, I think, in the early 90s, it shows that it's a brand that has really positioned itself as a premium lager that embodies the South African heritage and pride. And with all the brands that are coming up, or options of beer that are coming up, it has not changed its positioning. It has not changed its positioning of a long history of ensuring quality and engaging the local culture. It has created a distinct identity that resonates with a wide demographic of beer drinkers in the country. So, having gone through some of these case studies, we wanted to illustrate how effective positioning allows brands to rise above the noise, one, in the cluttered market, to create meaningful connections. That's two, this is occupying a space in your customer's psyche, and also establishing a lasting and competitive advantage, right? Because that's three, because we live in a competitive market. So we always have to find a way to remain relevant and resonate with the people that we are servicing. So, to sum up this review, because it's really been an exciting book to get and remind ourselves of the importance of positioning, even though it has been said in the market for a long time. It's important for us to just sum up what we've spoken about. So, this book really remains a seminal work in the world of marketing and branding. It's relevant. It offers timeless insights that continue to shape the way we think about strategic positioning. So, whether you are building a new brand from the ground or revitalizing an existing one, understanding the core principles laid out in this book is essential for cutting through the clutter and resonating with your audience. As we've seen, the lessons from positioning have influenced a wealth of related literature and continue to be relevant in today's digital first, consumer centric landscape. By crafting a distinctive position in the minds of your customers, you really can unlock the power to drive brand awareness, to foster loyalty, and ultimately achieve lasting success, as indicated in the case studies that we shared. So, really, if you are ready to take your brand to new heights, I think it's something that we will also look at from a future scale perspective. We encourage you to look at this book, review it, and explore the wealth of resources and case studies that can help you unlock the secret of strategic positioning. Um, the path to understanding this crowded market really starts with us understanding how we can position ourselves as brands. Um, we are looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the book. For those that have read it, just share what your thoughts have been, share what your learnings have been, and also maybe share brands that we have not necessarily looked at, that have considered the element of strategic positioning in this really, really loud market that we're in. See you next week, Friday, with another book to review. Cheers.